So we have this lovely thing that basically is your blob class. In the blob class, you have to add extra information to manage the health. So in this case, what I want to do is have a property called health bar. That property is going to be a movie clip that is inside of the blob. So the blob's going to have a health bar movie clip inside of it. What that means is that we can go and tell that text box to display the current health variable that we have of the blob. So if the blob starts at 9 health, we want it to display that it has 9 health. And so what we do is we make a text field, we add it inside of the blob movie clip. So in the properties, you make it dynamic, you give it the health bar name as an instance name. You then go and change the font to something that you're happy with. In my case, I like Impact for this because it's nice and legible. Make it a certain size. This one's, I think 31. And then make it a color that's legible, so obviously different to the blob color. And then embed the font. I'm only embedding the numerals because I'm only using the numerals for file size, but you can embed the whole thing. Otherwise, the font will not display, because if you don't embed the font doesn't show up when you play the movie clip because it doesn't have the font. So you have to do that embed thing for it to work. Then we position it. I type in the number 9 in there just so I can see the number. This will get overwritten by the actual variable. So by default, it'll appear as 9, and then within a split second, it'll change from 9. I deselected the selectable thing so that we click through the number rather than not being able to click on the blob and selecting the 9. So make sure that is ticked off. And I just name these so that we have layers that do some cool stuff. So one's the health bar, one's the blob. And we try it. So if we click it, it's now scaling the text box. Isn't that awesome? So I have a scale X on the text field rather than changing it to a different number. Back to the class, scroll down to the clicked function, go into where the health bar scale X is set, which is down on line 25, and change it to not be scaling it, so it doesn't do the little green thing that we saw before. This is actually making it small. So text equals health. So now every time I click it, it should update it to the number of the actual health of this thing. Now it's freaking out that it's not a string, so I have to cast the health variable as a string. So I put string, open bracket, close bracket around health. This makes it actually treat the integer as a string, so I can display it. And there it is. Blob was eliminated. You can see that in the top left in the output. So if I click it 2, 1, and there it is, another blob's gone. So that's just to get the basic stuff in, and we're only like 3 minutes in. So that's all you have to do. Add a text field, make sure you've got a line that initializes it to the actual health, and then you have another line that basically updates it every single time it's clicked. So then if we want to change the health to 2, just to make it easier to test, you can see that they all do their business, which is great. And they all disappear. We don't have a game over thing, but we're going to work our way up to that. What I'm changing here is to make the health random. So now we do a math.floor, so it rounds it down, and then we put a math.random inside, and then I do times 9. Problem with that is, I get this, I get zeros, right? And then it goes weird because then I try and minus from a 0 on a uint, and then it freaks out and gives me weird numbers. So you just have to do that, math random times 9, but you need to change it so that it's 8 and then you add 1, which means when it gets to 0, it always still at least has 1, which we saw there. So it's just a bit of math stuff. If you do that, it fixes it right up for you. So make sure if you want to have random health, you do that. If you just want to have set health, that's fine. If you know some of them will have 2 health, some of them will have 5, some of them will have 9, you don't need to do that. I just want to have some random stuff there for testing. Alright, so then I want to have something to control the game, right? So I need to put that in a layer above. So the blob is the dots, and they have their own intelligence, but I want to have some overarching code that manages whether we're playing the game or not. Now this eventually can be moved to a class, but initially I'd like you to use this space in here as a sandbox, meaning you type the code in here, you get it functional here, then you worry about how do I actually move it into a class so that I can externalize it, rather than starting from the class and going, I don't know how to do classes, and freaking out and not getting anywhere. So what we do here is we make the update blob count, right? That's my first attempt at this. This is like, what should I be doing? Well, I need to minus the blobs, and if the blobs are at 0. So if the count of blobs is 0, then I need to stop this whole process. So game over, right? No more blobs on the screen, game over. So I need to define a game over function, and that game over function needs to do something. In this case, it can just make a movie clip appear that will actually have game over text in it. That's all that's going to happen. So game over movie clip dot visible equals true. Make it visible, which means I also need to start the whole thing off with it being invisible. So game over visible needs to be equal to false, and blobs needs to start at 9 if I have 9 blobs, right? I think I don't have 9, I think I only have 7, so I need to change that. So that's the general idea, right? So that happens if the blobs are going to die, right? So I need to make sure that once a blob kills itself, meaning removes itself from the list, I update the main timeline and say, hey, we lost one. Do we have any left? If we have any left, keep playing. If we don't have any left, make sure this giant purple square appears and covers up the whole screen. And this purple square will then be basically having some text on it which says, hey, the game is over, well done for playing, right? Need to give it an instance name, so I'm calling it gameover_MC because the main thing's called game over. And then in here again using the lovely impact font just to basically type in game over. Now it's always set to whatever you had previously, so in this case it was set to dynamic text, so I need to make sure to change that to static. And then I can have it basically split, not split, but centered on the screen here. So you can use the Alt-K button, which opens up your align panel. And then basically that aligns it to the middle of the movie clip. And then I can do the same for the purple bit, so I can get that whole thing centered. And then you just need to go back up to the scene 1, your main stage, and again, Control-K, center it. And there it is. So this movie clip will be starting off and meant to be invisible. This value here didn't work because I didn't put a var in front of it, so that's fixed. And I want it to be a uint, so made that appear. So that's all happy now. There's all my blobs. Fantastic. So much stuff. So that's. I think I have 7. I think there was 7 of them. See you later. Yeah, so there's a button that's basically, if you right click, you can distribute to layers. It puts all the stuff you have in one layer onto separate layers. Just it helps clean up some stuff. So these are all my blobs. There's my game over screen sitting above it, and then there's the action script stuff above it. So for testing, I've reduced it down to 3 blobs, so it's easy to test. And yeah, can't make up my mind where to put them. Yeah. And there you go, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and game over should appear. And it didn't, so something's wrong, right? What did I do wrong? I haven't run that code yet, so then I half select a function name, which will be fun in a moment. You'll see how much fun it'll be in a moment. Right, I'll paste it in, it won't work, and I'll be like, what's going on? So I put it inside the kill function, which we made last week. So movie clip, then open bracket parent dot, close bracket dot, and then paste. And there's half my function name missing, I didn't even see it. There we go. Update. And then there's 2 8s, and it's just too much work. Update blob count. And then I used an uppercase U, which is not good because it's not going to work. And I need to do this just before I remove the movie clip, because if I remove it and then try and call it, it's not going to work because there's no reference to the parent, so... Yeah, exactly, it's just we're getting rid of it. So now it's not working because, again, update blob count is not a function because of the uppercase U, right? So I need to go and fix that. So initially I go here and I change that to uppercase, but that's not really the way, because if I do that, then it's not really consistent, because we use camel casing, which means the first word is always lowercase. So go back, change that to lowercase, go into the blob class and make sure we've got the same thing. So we go in here and change that, again, just selecting awesomeness there. Done. And we try it. Go. Blob 2 gone. Blob 3. Game over. Yay. Right? But so that's 10 minutes in. Now we need to get the whole thing to restart. So we need to add extra code for the game over movie clip to be clickable. So if the game over screen appears, we want it to be clickable, and if it's clicked, we want it to start a new game. And so for this, what we do is we add an event listener into the game over function. So we say add event listener mouse event click, and yeah, restart, done. And then we need to make a function that does the actual restart, which in this case will accept a mouse event because that's what it's going to get. So you need to catch it. Even if you don't use it, you need to catch it. And then in here you can say, okay, game over MC visible equals false, because now we're turning that off, right? And then once we've done that, we also need to make some blobs. So we go back to the basics of making blobs. So var b is a blob, and it equals a new blob. And because the blob is a whole class, it knows what to do. It creates a blob for us. And then we basically position the blob 50 pixels from the left and 50 pixels from the top. Then we add that blob to the display. And once we've done that, a blob was made, right? So these are the ones that we've pre-made on the screen. These are the drag and drop ones we made. And then you click and there's your blob that you made. So for whatever reason, this is not happening again. So we need to add that to it. So blobs equals 1. So now we've reset the blobs counter. And added a little semicolon there. Even though it worked without it, it's always nice to have semicolons where they should be. Yeah. Typically. Click. Click. And we have the loop. Yay! That's it.